What's up, everyone? I am Jamie with threelittlegoats.com. It is Saturday, which means it is soaping Saturday. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. Every Saturday we put out a soap making video, and every Tuesday we do a homesteading vlog where I share our projects that we're doing around our homestead that involve our goats, chickens, ducks, pigs, and whatever else animals we happen to have at that time. And if you've been around for a while, welcome back. I'm glad to see you as always. So today I decided we're going to do something a little bit different. I was cleaning up and trying to reorganize my lofts in my office, and I came across my crock pot, which I haven't used in about almost 4 years. So I figured I'd pull the crock pot down and we'd make some hot process soap today. And of course we can't just make any boring old hot process soap. We're going to experiment and we're going to play, and I absolutely love how this soap turned out. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright y'all, so we're doing something a little bit different today. We're going to go ahead and do some hot process soap, which I haven't done in ages, but I am super excited to get back at it. I love hot process soap just for the simple fact that we're forcing it through the saponification, which means that once it's hardened in the mold and you cut it, you can actually use it right away. Now I do like to let mine cure for at least a week to let it dry out a little bit, but for the most part it's completely safe to use as soon as it's done. So I've got all of my oils already melted in my crock pot. You can do this on the stove, but I find doing it in a crock pot is so much easier. You can find crock pots relatively cheap at thrift stores, and so that's just my preference. So I'm just adding in some kaolin clay. I'm adding in, let's see if I can get it open, my beer powder. And then lastly, my goat milk powder. Now I get a lot of questions about my goat milk and my beer powder. I make them. You can buy them in a lot of places. You can use regular beer. I have a video on how to make beer soap and a video on how to make goat milk soap from actual regular goat milk. But this is my goat milk powder. I freeze dry it. I'm making a video all on the entire process. I don't know if it'll be out yet, but it might be. If it is, I will link it. So for our fragrance, we're actually going to be using gingerbread waffles. I figured this would be a good fragrance to use because it has a lot of vanilla in it, so it's going to brown the soap. So I really don't want to do too much of a fancy schmancy soap. What is it called? Pattern? Yeah, soap pattern. I am going to be using a little bit of chocolate brown mica just to make sure the whole color is completely even. But we are going to try something. I do have some gold mica here, and I've just got it mixed in with a little bit of 99% rubbing alcohol. And we're going to try something a little bit later with this, so stick around for that. It may go wonderful. It could be just a disaster. So real quick, I'm going to get my oils, or my powders mixed in with my oils, and then we'll get started. Let that hang out there for a second. I do have a little bit of lye lint on my lye water, so I'm just going to strain that. No big deal, but just preference. Alright, and I'm going to actually add in my colorant right now as well. And I'm going to bring this to a thick trace. Alright y'all, so my soap is thickened up quite a bit, which I'm happy with. So we're actually going to let this sit for about 15 to 20 minutes and just leave it alone. Now while we're waiting, I'll go over just a few tips if you've never made hot process soap. One, if you're using a crock pot or if you're doing it on the stove, make sure whatever container you're doing it in, you have enough room to let your soap expand. It's actually going to bubble and fill with a lot of air pockets, and it'll actually come almost to the top of this crock pot. So make sure you leave plenty of space in your crock pot or your pot, whatever you're soaping in. And then this is just a personal preference. My oils, I did not super fat this batch. I'm actually going to super fat this at a later step, and I'll show you when I do actually super fat it. But for now, we're just going to let this sit and hang out. I've got my crock pot sitting on low right now, and if it seems like it's taking a long time, I might bump it up to high. For now, we're just gonna let it hang out and sit on low, and I'll bring you guys back in about 15 to 20 minutes. Alright y'all, so it may look like a hot mess because it kind of is a hot mess, but right now we are at the separation phase of hot process soap, which means the oils and the liquid is kind of separating from each other. You can see right here you got oil on the top, and that's completely normal. All you're going to do is you're going to give it a good stir. Make sure everything gets nice and incorporated again. So if you are making hot process soap, just be warned, you don't want to be too far away from your soap, just so you can keep an eye on it. Make sure when it gets to these phases it doesn't burn, because nobody likes burnt soap. Alright, so now everything is nice and incorporated again. I am going to let it sit probably for another 15 to 20 minutes and wait till it gets to the applesauce phase. And I'll bring you guys back when we get there. Alright, so we are just about at the applesauce stage of our soap making. And again, I'm just going to give this a good stir. And then, you guessed it, we're going to let it sit for another 15 to 20 minutes. What we're looking for, is you can kind of see it starting now, maybe, is it's going to start to look almost like petroleum jelly or Vaseline. It's going to get shiny and glossy, and that's when we know we're about done. So I'm going to actually check my temperature right now. So we want to be around the 200 degree mark. I'm sitting at about 210, so it's a little hot, so I'm going to stir it just a little bit more just to get it circulating so it doesn't burn. Alright, and then we're going to let it sit for another 10-15 minutes and we'll bring you back. Alrighty y'all, it's been about 20 minutes. Let me just give this a stir, and as you can see, as I stir it up, it gets nice and glossy. It is very warm right now. I'm actually going to, it's about 201, but I am going to turn off my cooker because I don't need it on anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and do my super fatting now. I'm going to super fat with some shea butter, and I'm just going to stir this in until it gets completely melted. And so I'm going to let this cool down just a smidge before I add my fragrance. Again, like I said, I'm using the gingerbread waffles. The flash point for this particular fragrance is 200 degrees Fahrenheit. So I want to make sure before I add it to my soap that I am below that 200 degrees. And right now I'm fluctuating between 105 and like 198. So still a little bit too hot to add my fragrance. So I'm just going to let it hang out for a few minutes and cool down. Alright, so we are, of course, at the Vaseline stage. It is nice and glossy and shiny, and I think we're at about 184, 179 is what I'm fluctuating between. So I can go ahead and put my fragrance oil in. And I'm going to stir this in really, really good. Oh my goodness, it smells so good. Oh, it smells like a Christmas store. Now, I grew up, I don't know if a Christmas store makes sense to some people. I grew up in Michigan, and for around the holidays, my grandparents would always take me up to Frankenmuth. If you've ever been there, leave a comment down below. If you know what I'm talking about. And they had a store that was always Christmas, and it was just my favorite store to go to whenever we went up there. That and the doll store. There was a doll store that they made these porcelain dolls by hand, and they were just gorgeous. This is what this smells like, is our Christmas vacations to Frankenbooth. That's what it reminds me of. It smells amazing. Alright, I think we're good to go with that. Alright, so I'm going to try to move everything over. And so I mentioned before, I've got some gold mica that I've just added some rubbing alcohol to. So we're going to play with that for a minute too. Since this is hot process, it is very thick. So it can be kind of a pain in the butt to get into your mold. You just got to be patient and work with it. And make sure you're tapping it down because you don't want to get too big of air pockets. So let's get some of this in. Then we're going to tap it down. Make sure we get it all across the bottom. Get some gaps there. And some gaps there. Alright, so we got that little bit in there. So instead of doing a mica powder, I'm just going to paint it on in a few random spots. That way when you cut it, it's almost like veining, but we'll see. That's what I imagine it looks like in my head. Whether it's going to look like that when we cut it open is a totally different story. I just didn't want straight brown soap. So that's what we're going to do. Just put some all over. Alright. Then we're going to add some more soap. This time being a little bit more gentle so I don't completely smush all of the gold that we just put in there. Alright, and then we're going to give this a whack. Ooh, try not to knock everything off in my work surface. Too late, too late. It is what it is. Alright. So, I'm going to get those corners. Those are the trickiest parts to get down into. Making sure we get it all in there. Alright, and I'm just going to put some more mica sporadically through. And I find doing it this way, it's a lot less messy. I mean, you're not going to get as thick of a line as you would if you were using like a tea strainer and tapping the mica on. But I'm not getting mica all over the place. And I don't want a super thick line as it is. Glove does not want to cooperate. Alright, so that is pretty much it. I am going to give this a spritz. Rubbing alcohol, it really doesn't need it. It's just habit. And I'm going to let this harden for about 24 hours before we take it out of the mold to cut it. And I'll bring you guys back when it's time to cut. Alright, y'all, it is the best part of making soap. It is soap cutting day. So let's get this girl cut open and see if my plan worked or if it was just an epic fail. I'm guessing epic fail, but maybe it'll work somewhat. Oh my goodness. Oh. You ever need a workout, just cut soap all day. Oh, it worked. Oh, it worked. Do you see it? Do you see it? Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. I love that. I didn't want a super thick line of mica like you would when you dust the mica on. I just wanted something thin and just, oh, I'm so excited. I love it. Oh, so fun. Oh, look at that one. Oh, they're all so pretty. I am so happy with how these turned out. Oh. Alright, y'all. So that is this week's soap, and I'll see you guys in the outro. Alright, y'all, so that is what I've got for you guys today. When I posted this picture to my personal Facebook page, my brother looked at it and he made a comment and he goes, "That looks like a piece of granite." And after looking at it, I'm like, yes, it does. It definitely looks like a piece of granite. And so that's kind of what I'm calling it, is like a granite inspired soap. I absolutely love how it turned out. And if you guys try this technique of painting the micas on instead of dusting the mica and creating a mica line, let me know in the comments below how it turned out, and or tag me in your pictures on Instagram or other social media. I'd love to see it. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.